Welcome back. Still working on the RPG Modpack. Let me show you some of the stuff I've done. So as you would know if you were on my Discord server, I replaced the reforging mod that I already had with a different one that's more customizable. Because of this, I am now able to reforge guns. So I have here the rusty gnat. I can throw it in here, where flint's just a placeholder item, but with some amethyst, I can reforge it. Now it becomes an intimidating rusty gnat. And I've added a bunch of custom reforging affixes that do different things. So this one gives firearm projectile damage and durability. Roll it again. You know, this is a bad one. This is what you might get if you craft it. Minus durability and range damage. Here's range damage, but decreased reload speed. Stuff like that. Here's some of the best ones. So you can compare the damage of the different types. So I've got here, this is the best rarity. 11.8 per shot. If I use this one, which is bad, 10.9. And granted, this is one of the ones that still has increased damage. These modifiers are custom, but at the moment I've just implemented the ranged damage modifiers from Terraria because I wasn't quite sure what to do. I will probably overhaul these later with some better stats, but for now they work and they still give quite a fun curve to it. This reforging is actually influenced by your luck stat. So if I get my luck stat and set it to 40, you'll notice that I'm repeatedly getting higher quality reforges. Although I'm actually getting quite unlucky here. You'll just have to take my word for it. Another thing I've added is the armor sets mod. This mod allows me to add custom bonuses to armor sets. For instance, I can make the leather set give me a plus 20% ranged damage bonus, but only when I'm wearing the entire set. So if I wear the whole set of armor, now I'm doing 14.2 damage per shot. Take off even just the helmet, back down to 11.8. So, you know, set bonuses. I think that'll just give me a lot more to do. Someone in the last video was asking for more interesting armor sets because they thought that was something that wasn't done well enough. So I have been investigating that idea. I've got a bunch of potential armor sets down here from different mods. I may even add custom armor sets of my own. And you can see the blocks above them is just my own internal ranking system of whether I like them or not. So I'm like, the yellow ones, I'm like, maybe we'll have this. The green one, I'm like, yeah, I think I want to have it. And then the red ones, like, I don't think it looks cool enough. And then as for the stats and stuff, I can completely reconfigure them to suit my needs as the time goes on. And I can also just give them my own armor set bonuses. I'm hoping that will make it feel a lot cooler. I can also do things like have 3 different helmets for the same armor set so that you can do the Terraria thing and have the different helmets make the set give you different bonuses. On that note, one of the things I would like to do but haven't yet is set up a proper reforging system for the armors where I can break the armors down into class categories and you can get reforges on your armor that will help you with the different classes you want to be. Like, for instance, a mage armor, you can reforge it to give it more max mana and stuff like that. I think that would help a lot. Another thing I've been working on is bow scaling. So I've got a few different bows here from Spartan Weaponry because it adds a few early game bows that you can craft with different materials. I thought it was cool. We've got the wooden longbow and the leather strengthened longbow, but unfortunately I've been having trouble getting the mods I use to apply stats directly to the items, but it works if you craft it. So if I craft a wooden longbow, then you can see here that this one has +1 range damage. If I do the same thing but with leather, then this one has +3. And that way you'll get different damage from both of them. So I'll just demonstrate that real quick. And all of this will scale stronger with the stat bonuses. You can get a glimpse at the sort of scaling I was thinking of for the different bows here, but I haven't implemented all of it yet, and I want to find a better way to do so because I refuse to give up on it. I mentioned in my last video that I encountered a few problems while designing this pack, and I had to make my own solutions for them. And I'm going to explain the first one of them now. This is one of the Tyramity guns, and this is the Frostmaw from Mousie's Mobs. This, like a bunch of modded boss enemies, actually, quite annoyingly, if I shoot it, it is completely immune to projectiles. Doesn't matter what you do, arrows, gunshots, they'll bounce off. There's a few exceptions, like the magic. Magic still works. And I believe these guns still work. Yeah, these ones still work. But I want people to be able to use the bows to fight things, so this is no good. I had to make my own solution. Chill out. So I bullied a friend of mine into making a mod for me that fixes that. Introducing Don't Deflect My Freaking Projectiles. This mod does exactly what it says on the tin. It makes it so that the mobs can't deflect my projectiles. And as a result, you can now kill the Frostmaw with a bow. This also means that mobs that naturally deflect projectiles, like the Wither in the second phase, that's also fixed. You can kill that with a bow entirely now as well. Is that kind of broken? Yes, but I'm going to try and find other ways to fix that, and to me it's more important to have, you know, one of the playstyles not get completely invalidated by the incorrect boss choice. I don't want that to be a thing. I also want to try and spread out the progression of arrows a bit. So you've got the wooden arrows that do 0.5 times damage, but are much easier to craft, as I'll show you in a second. But then if we skip ahead, we have the diamond arrows here, also from Spartan's weaponry, and they do significantly more damage per shot. And then at the top of the line, we have the dragon bone arrows from Ice and Fire, which just do silly amounts of damage. I'm thinking I might space these out a bit and change the recipes because I think they're a little too overpowered for the difficulty of obtaining them. But I do think this will help make the scaling and progression of archery and range damage in general much more fluid and interesting. And also, even if you use the higher quality projectiles, you won't necessarily be able to mass produce them at the same time. Like, you might be able to get diamond arrows before you can use lots of diamond arrows, that sort of thing. But I think I'm going to change what they are and maybe even add more if I can. I would like to do that. It's also worth noting that although the projectile mod does work for anything that deflects projectiles, there's things like Endermen, which they still dodge arrows, but you can just shoot them with a gun instead. So it's not like the playstyle's completely invalidated, and it's only Endermen, which are a bit of a smaller deal, so I guess that's okay. And over here, I have a custom crafting recipe for wooden arrows. So cardboard, sticks, and planks. And doing that will make you one wooden arrow, which should make it pretty easy to get arrows in the early game, because cardboard is just made in bulk by putting 2 logs together like so. And it should make it a lot easier to play ranged damage early game when getting the resources can be kind of rough, particularly feathers. Okay, because as far as I'm concerned, mob drop loot is actually mid-game and not early game. I know that technically you can get feathers in the early game and you can get leather in the early game, but getting a lot of them takes a lot longer. Another mod I've added is explosive enhancement, which makes explosions look a lot cooler. And I really like this, but I wish that I had some tool where I could spawn them with different colors, because there's certain things like spells where if I could spawn like a purple one of these, that would be really cool. The underwater version is blue, so it does have some degree of support. I would really love to have a customizable version of this particle for my own uses. Alright, I guess it's time we talk about it. Boss fights. So this is the mutant zombie. And this is pretty much what I'm thinking of as the first boss fight of the game. The Mutant Monsters mod. We've all seen it. Come on, don't pretend you haven't. Compared to some of the other mods I've got in here, I feel like this guy's fairly simplistic. But I feel like if I ignored them altogether, I would be doing a disservice to the mod and how cool they look. Plus, I think he's decently complicated for an early game boss. The only thing that's a little sad is that you have to light him on fire for him to properly die. But I have been able to customize the amount of experience he drops. One of the other mods I have in here is Spice of Life Valheim, which allows you to eat food and get an increase to your max health. And with a bit of tweaking, I've been able to set it up so that it actually scales off of health boosts that you get by leveling up. So the effectiveness of food will increase with your level. Better food is still better, but it will all be amplified by level up stats. This mod also had some issues, and I was only able to fix them, funnily enough, by forking the mod and making my own version of it, because I wanted to be able to sprint whenever, and that just wasn't an option. If you run out of food in the base mod, you just can't sprint. But with the way I'm planning to design this pack, I want people to be able to sprint all the time. I would rather they be limited by the parkour stamina than by not having eaten food recently. I had a lot of trouble getting that to actually work, but it works now! Another mod I have in here is Gateways to Eternity, which lets me place down these customized pearls that have different waves of monsters for you to deal with. And this is sort of how I was thinking that you would get to the first boss fight, is you would get one of these pearls through quest progression, and then use it to fight the boss monster. But I'm wondering if I should do dungeons instead of these pearls. Like, I like parts of them, but I'm not entirely sure if this is the best way to do things or not. I like a lot of it. Like, I like the visual effect when they spawn in, and I like having extra control of the loot that comes out. There's a lot of things I like about it, but I'm just not sure if this is really the best way to handle boss fights. It does let me put a timer on it. So if I could do something like make this only spawn at night, I could replicate Terraria boss items and have it be time limited where you have to beat the bosses fast enough. And I like that aspect of things, but I'm not convinced that this is the best way to handle it. And I feel like a lot of the time it might be a lot more interesting to have to go into a dungeon and find the boss monsters instead. Alright, now we're gonna get the mutant zombie. Next wave starting. Oh, there he is! One of the big issues with it, as it currently stands, is that when you get the zombie down once... Ow! It clears, even though I haven't actually beaten him, because he's going to get straight back up, see? Another thing you might have noticed, boss music. I have a mod that plays boss music when you're fighting boss monsters, so this guy's noticed me, it started playing the boss music. And then, although I used the guns to beat him, realistically, I don't think I'm going to have it possible to get the guns beforehand. In a lot of my testing, the loot that he drops can include the flintlock. I'm probably thinking something more like Terraria, where this gun, the flintlock pistol, will probably drop after you beat him. I think it would be more interesting if maybe instead of the Hulk hammer, he dropped some kind of interesting material and you could use that to craft the pistol. Or maybe he just even drops the pistol. And the final thing that I'm going to talk about today is End Remastered, because this is something else that I feel like I have a controversial take on, and I might as well get it out here. I do have End Remastered in the pack, but for people who, like me, will groan upon hearing that, I want you to calm down for a second and hear me out. In my opinion, the base version of End Remastered is really, really annoying about how to get the different Eyes of Ender. Where in regular Minecraft you would just put 16 Eyes of Ender into the portal and be ready to go to the end, in End Remastered, you have to use a different eye for each slot. And then they add a bunch of unique eyes, about 16 of them, which you can get through various means. The problem is that most of them are awful to get. Take, for instance, this one, the Undead Eye. To get the Undead Eye, you need to combine a rotten flesh, a ghast tear, a bone, a phantom membrane, and an undead soul. Now, where do you think you get undead souls? That is where you get undead souls. By a tiny percentage chance from killing skeleton horses. As far as I'm aware, there's only one way to get skeleton horses in Minecraft without cheating. And that is by stumbling across them in the super rare event that spawns 4 skeleton horse riders with a strike of lightning. So not only do you need to get that rare event, you have to actually get the chop chance from killing all 4 skeleton horses, or else you can't make the eye. End Remaster has a lot of things like this. And I always find that getting the eyes is usually a matter of luck and my patience. What I've elected to do instead is assign each eye to an optional boss fight. Some of these bosses you'll do throughout the story, like the mutant zombie. Some of the other ones are completely optional, like the mutant creeper or the mutant skeleton. And I fully intend to have a boss that drops every single eye that you can get just by playing the game. I'm going to have to tweak it to make sure, but I want it to not be a hassle to get every eye. I'm hoping this will alleviate a lot of the frustration that this mod usually causes. Of course, all of this, I'm open to feedback. If you want to leave comments or come join the Discord and discuss things with me, I'm more than happy to listen to complaints, ideas, anything of the sort. I had a lot of people leaving comments on the last video. I thought that was great. That was super exciting. All right, I'll see you when I see you.